What happens when an experienced coach steps beyond the comfort of their native language? In this episode, Sylvie Filipski shares her insights from coaching in multiple languages, including English, and how this shift has shaped her approach, her confidence, and her ability to connect with clients from different backgrounds. Welcome to Language Explorers, where we dive into the stories of people who use language as a bridge for personal and professional growth. I'm Stacey Marie, and today's episode is especially relevant for coaches who are considering expanding their practice to an international audience. In our last episode, we explored this idea with Lydia, who intentionally tested the coaching experience in a language that wasn't her own, pushing herself outside her comfort zone to see what she could learn. Today, we're taking that conversation a step further with Sylvie, who has years of experience coaching in her native language, French, but also across multiple languages. Sylvie shares the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the deeper lessons that come with guiding others in a language that isn't your own. How does coaching in a foreign language change the experience? And can embracing linguistic imperfections actually help us to connect more authentically? Sylvie also sees language as music, each one with its own rhythm, flow, and energy. And in today's conversation, we explore how that sensitivity influences her work and the way she listens to her clients. So let's dive in. In this 4-part mini-series, we will explore the fascinating connection between languages and professional identity with Sylvie Filipski. As an ICF accredited and walking coach, mentor, supervisor, and a passionate polyglot, Sylvie offers unique perspectives on how languages can shape the way we think, feel, and work. And my hope is that this series inspires you to embrace new challenges and explore your own journey with languages. Welcome, Sylvie. I am thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Stacey. I'm very happy to be here as well on this very specific topic that I love.
Great. So in this first episode, I would like to explore how your multilingualism shapes your professional identity and approach. So Sylvie, what really stands out to me about your journey is how you so fully embrace both the challenges and the joys of speaking multiple languages. And I'm curious, what motivated you to share your story with us today?
Well, language is a passion that I've had for many years because actually I'm French, as you can hear, of Italian and Occitan origin. And as a child, I used to spend my summer holidays in the mountains in Italy. And I remember hearing different languages, like the local dialect, also Occitan, and also Italian. My parents speaking French, my grandfather Italian with other people. And I was fascinated about that. It came to be something quite normal. I was playing with neighbors, spoke Italian, and we tried to play together. And well, we would learn words from each other. And so at the age of 13, I wanted to know more. So I took a book about Italian and I started learning Italian on my own. So it was not the language I was studying at school. I studied German and then after English. It was the personal one, the one I wanted because I was experiencing Italian, speaking with other people and not only in school. And then it became a passion. When you start learning a language, you want more. It has nothing to do with the way you learn languages at school because actually I was quite bored at school. I was not that interested in this lesson at school. I really like sleeping. But it's very different when you come to meet people and to exchange. And I had the opportunity, the chance to be able to meet people from other languages from my youth onwards. And then it was something I kept looking after again and again. So I traveled a lot. And so I learned different languages, and I'm always I think it has to do with curiosity. I'm very curious because through the language, you can meet the souls of the people. You can connect with them. And so it's one of my hobbies. So when I have some time, I take a book and I learn a new language. And
Wow.
I try to find a link. Like if I plan to travel in a country, well, I will start to learn this particular language, so it makes sense. And then I met my husband, who is German, and then I learned English. I went to university. I learned languages. It's through the meeting, people you meet. Actually, it has to deal with humanity.
Wow.
Learning a language is not only for the words. It's because you can relate that to certain people.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing, and what you're sharing is that you were really exposed to a multitude of languages right from the beginning. And so, right from when you were a child, there was meaning in languages, a need also. You wanted to communicate with these other children. And so a desire was there, and meaningful connections. That's what I'm really hearing. It's not learning a language just for learning a language. It's to be able to connect with family members, with people around you, and traveling. So that sounds like there's a lot of
Yeah, it's about fun. It's about playing, because the first encounter was to play with a neighbor.
right.
And actually, yes, playing is a play. It's a game. You play with the other. You connect. Connecting is playing.
So you
Where
kept
are
a
you? Where am I?
playfulness.
Who are you? Who am I? It started with a game, wanting to play more together. Would say.
Okay, so connection, playfulness, and curiosity.
Definitely.
Beautiful. Okay, earlier I introduced you briefly. Is there any other personal detail or unique perspective that you would like to add to help our listeners connect with your journey?
Well, maybe I can speak about the languages I speak. So I'm French
Sure.
with Italian origin. I learned English at school, and then I lived 1 year in London. I worked in English as well. I lived 6 years in Germany, so I learned at school as well. And my husband is German. So this is a language we speak at home, German. My grandparents were from Occitan origin, which was a language from all south of France and a part of Italy and a small part in Spain. And I learned it again. My children went to an Occitan school. It is said to be a regional language, but actually it was there before French. So it's a very nice language. I understand Spanish quite well, but I don't have that many opportunities to speak. When I was 14, I went to Greece, and I learned ancient Greek. So I learned on myself with books some Greek. And regularly, I keep up learning. I love the writings. And when I was in Germany and I was in the university, I learned Russian 1 year, but I have forgotten almost everything about it. And then lately, I learned Moroccan Arabic because I went there in 2023. I'm interested in how the language works, but like speaking, it's different. And maybe I can say also that I love music. I play the violin and I sing, which helps with languages. I think it's quite related. Music and languages. Maybe we will speak about it.
Oh, well, since you mentioned it, now I'm just curious. You mentioned that you sing. Do you sing in different languages? And if so, which languages?
Well, I sing opera. Well,
Okay. Mhm.
as much as as I can, I do sing in other languages. Actually, mostly in other languages than French.
Oh, okay, that's
French is not easy to sing with. It's not the easiest language for singing.
Do you have a favorite language for singing in?
Oh, Italian. It's wonderful.
For sure.
It's very open. English is quite nice as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible, the number of languages that you have been inspired and motivated to learn and to use. May I ask you now, how speaking foreign languages changes how you are as a coach, a supervisor, or a mentor?
I think that has sharpened or broadened, I don't know how to say that, my sense of listening.
Mm.
Also the violin. Like, trying to hear. When you learn a language, there is a lot about listening and trying to find out what the person is saying. And you will see that people talking differently than in your native language. They have different expressions, different words, which means different things. So you really have to listen carefully. You really have to adapt to the language of the other. So even if I work in French as a coach, I'm always trying to pick up the language of the person, the metaphors they use, the expressions, if it is visual, for example, visual language, or how they speak. It's something now which is natural to me. So I think that I'm very precise with my listening, and I don't only listen to words, but I listen to everything else. And actually, when you travel, when you interact in another language, you have to listen differently because you don't know all the words. So you have to listen about what is there in the room, what is the intention of the person. You have to find out more than you understand.
Right. I was going to ask you, when you say more than just the words, you started to move your body. I understand that there's something else. What else would you add? What else are you listening to differently thanks to your exposition to these different languages?
I think you listen to the voice, the gesture, as you just
Yes.
what you see, what you hear, what you feel, which intention. How do you feel with this person? What is happening? You have to trust more the unknown. You don't know everything. You're not sure. You have to deal with this uncertainty. So you listen to everything and you try to pick up the intention, then all the nonverbal and the system maybe of the person. If you learn a different language, you're used to that naturally.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, it's as you were saying earlier, it's sharpening your listening, it's sharpening your senses in a much more general sense.
Yes, that's
So
right.
it's the words, it's the sound, it's the body, and you kept putting your hand here on your chest. It's something more, maybe something deeper, something on an energy level, I understand. So it sounds like it's really an overall, much more acute listening and much more attentive, was what I'm hearing.
Yes. Just as you're doing. You are a professional in that as well. Yes.
It's right. And so in connected with coaching, obviously this is something that is cultivated as a coach already. But here what I'm getting is that it's multiplied. It's adding that much more attention into that space of listening.
Yes, that's correct.
And do you feel like every language brings out a different side of your personality?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. I don't think I'm the same person when I speak Italian and then when I speak German, for example.
Okay. And so that's an example. I can see that there is a difference there. How could you imagine that that might influence your practice in coaching or mentoring, being a bit different in these different languages?
Maybe I'm used to adapting to different styles. If I speak Italian, se parlo italiano, parlerò con le mani, sarà un po' più così. As you can see, when I speak Italian, all of a sudden I will have more gestures. I cannot speak Italian without using my hands or singing a bit more my voice.
So you're going to be more expansive, more expressive?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So speaking a language is not only about having the right words. It's not about having the right words at all. Oh, it's not the most important, but it's about picking up the language entirely. And the language is not only the words, it's the way it is used, like a musician. You play music. You have to pick up the music of the language too. Well, you don't have to, but it helps. And so I think that it's about adapting to the language of the other, the music of the other, maybe more easily. I don't know if I answer your question in the right way. Is that okay?
I wouldn't say that there is a right way to answer that question. And maybe just to go a little bit further into this question, that you feel a difference, you sense a difference in one language or another one. If we come back to the question of practice, if you're coaching in Italian, if you're coaching in French, does that mean that it's almost a different approach that you have? Or so there's almost a bit of a different Sylvie as a coach, depending on the language that you're coaching in?
I don't think so completely, because I am the coach that I am and I have my way of coaching. Maybe in a foreign language, I would maybe talk less. Definitely.
You would talk less?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Give more space to my client because, well, you have to listen more. I have to listen even more. And I will maybe go more to the essential, which is a good point, because when you coach, it's not a good thing to talk all the time or to have long sentences. So actually, it's an advantage when you speak a foreign language, because you will only use the essential words to make yourself understand. And I talk less. I will use the body language of the other person. I will try to connect with the way they are, which I would do naturally, I hope, because I know the language and the way they speak. But no, I'm not a different person. I feel different because I sound different, but it's me. And maybe I'm even more me. I don't know. It's a tricky question. I have to concentrate on who I am even more. I have to accept that I will shine with all my flaws, with all my mistakes. And this is me. And this is my singularity. It makes you connect even more to whom you are, I think, when you work in a different language. You sound different, but you broaden yourself.
Okay. Opening yourself up and being
you are more of yourself, like in my native language. Well, it's me. But I have also this Italian side of me, maybe this English one, this German one. So it's like a comedian. You can play different roles, but it's always you, as maybe you wouldn't be in your own language.
Okay, so like a broader sense of you. More you. It sounds very authentic, maybe more aware also, like you have a bit more awareness of who you are, of how you are. And at the same time, I understand that there is consistency also with your coaching, that maybe the strategy that you have or the framework, there's something constant there. And at the same time, there's something more open.
Yes, and you have to be conscious about the cultural differences. Maybe if I am with a German person, I might not go like very expressive, because people won't feel at ease with that. For example. So, but speaking the language, I would automatically, I would say, go in their direction, while I will be maybe more expressive than my German spoke person, but not that much if I am with an Italian. Well, these are some cliches, actually.
Okay, but I understand that this comes from your experience in communicating with people of different cultures. And so you're adapting, you're mirroring, in a way, their gestures to improve your communication with them.
Yes, but it's natural. It's quite natural, actually. Yes.
Okay. What do you think is different when you coach in a foreign language?
As I say, I feel more humble.
More humble.
Because I don't master the languages as much as my own. So I tend to give more space. But I think it's quite an advantage, because one might feel a bit ashamed, like, oh, I won't understand everything. But actually, as a coach, it's very interesting, because if you don't understand in a foreign language, maybe you will ask, well, I haven't understood your word, which you will not do in your own language. Maybe you have not understood the other, or maybe you think, well, I have understood, but actually it's not what they wanted to say. In a foreign language, you will have to ask. Otherwise, you're pretending. So it might be actually very interesting for the person to be questioned about what they meant. They will have to speak in a more understandable way as well with a foreign coach. So they might bring more clarity also. And as a coach, it's good because you come there and you can say that you don't know. You're not like the coach, super coach who knows everything. You have to be at ease with the fact that you don't know. And that's what is expected about a coach. And you're experiencing that. You cannot say, well, I know everything, which is not true anyway. But there, it's obvious that you don't master everything. And it is a very good thing in this job, I think.
Okay, so if I put that into different words, I understand that for you, speaking in a foreign language pushes you into being more humble, as you had said, and also being more you. It's pushing you into creating more clarity for the coachee and for the coach.
Yeah, you're like a bit like a child who doesn't understand everything. So you'll have to question, and you have to have the person explain themselves in a clear way, actually. So you're more genuine. I don't know. I don't know. And understood, like a bit like I'm a fool.
Right. Okay, so it's, as I was saying earlier, that is the approach that we're looking for as coaches, to be curious, to be questioning words. And here, speaking a foreign language that we don't master is pushing us even further into doing that. We're needing to do it, so it just happens more naturally in a way, organically.
Yes.
And I'm also hearing that there's a question of partnership too, where because you're not mastering the language, it's bringing you into a bit of a more vulnerable space. I'm not the all-knowing master of the language, so I need to question you. I need to be a little simple. We need to simplify so that we can clarify for everybody.
Yes, people might not see me as the expert, as they might see their coach in their own native language. So you cannot hide. You have to take on this position because it's obvious that you're not mastering everything, which is a good thing.
That is a very interesting and an empowering switch on things. Oh, it's actually a good thing to be in this position. It's helping you to be a better coach.
I think so. And when you experience that, yes, you tend to put yourself in small shoes.
How do you think it affects the coaching process if your client is being coached in a foreign language for them?
Question. I don't think really that it affects the process. The process is the same. I think, as I said, that they might have more space, that everybody will have to speak more slowly, be sure that they understand each other, because it is very important. It's a partnership. Coaching is a partnership. So it is important as a coach that I understand my client and that my client feels understood and that we understand each other. So maybe there might be more respect, more checking with each other. Like when you're playing music together, you're tuning yourself. And coaching is about tuning yourself with the other person. It's very important that we keep this partnership. So maybe we have to do it even more to check regularly. Are we together? Do we understand each other really in the right way? Which is actually even better.
Okay, so this just turning the tables and saying, okay, you're coaching maybe in your native language, but the coachee is in a foreign language. Same thing, same phenomenon. Oh, we're not both mastering this language, so we need to be careful. We need to be more attentive to understanding each other. And
it is exactly what you're doing, that you will rephrase more. You're doing that. You will rephrase more to be sure that we understand. The client will have to speak more slowly, maybe. So if they speak more slowly, they will listen even more to themselves. Maybe we'll have new things emerging from their conversation. They will hear themselves more. They will pause. They'll give space for things to come in, maybe more easily.
That is also very interesting. So we've touched upon a great number of advantages. We're only seeing advantages here to either coaching in a foreign language or coaching the coachee in their foreign language. Can you see what would be difficult or challenging in these situations?
Yes, well, you have another difficulty because you want to find the right words. So you won't be as precise in your language. You will not be able to express yourself completely with all the nuances from your own language. So that's quite frustrating. You might be afraid to make mistakes. But again, if you make mistakes, you can use it in coaching. You can use everything that is happening. You just have to think that you always are the best coach for your client anyway, with who you are. But it can be quite frustrating, and sometimes there can be misunderstandings, cultural misunderstandings, or well, you don't find the right words, you cannot say something. So you might not feel at ease in the conversation. Or you might think, well, it's me, I'm not good enough in that language. You might take a small role in the partnership, which, according to me, I think you have to address that when it comes, because certainly it has a powerful meaning for your client if you start feeling small as a coach. It's not only the language, but you can have more easily this kind of thinking, well, I'm not good enough, or I cannot say everything I can. So the preciseness, it's not there as much as in your own language, unfortunately.
Okay. So there's a risk of frustration there, a risk of maybe missing some precision in the speaking, in the words that are chosen. And at the same time, I'm also hearing there's a bit of a risk that it could put the coach into a position that's too vulnerable, maybe too aware of themselves, worrying about their legitimacy of actually being in that position as a coach. And so with this larger risk, having that awareness that maybe this might be a space where something needs to be addressed. So maybe in mentoring or in supervision, if this were to happen, then the coach might need that sort of support.
You might not know, is it me? Because, is it because of the language? Or is it the system of the client? It's not that obvious. And I'm smiling because when I hear, oh, she's saying that so much better than what I said. And that's really the point. So that you get to this frustration that you don't have the right words, not that clear. And when I'm hearing you telling again what I'm saying, I say, oh, she's saying that in such a wonderful way. Why can I not saying that like this? It is exactly my point.
Okay. So those types of thoughts can come up and they can possibly hinder the coaching relationship, is what I understand. They can, okay. And I think it was me that really brought that in. But when you said that's something that needs to be addressed, that automatically I thought to myself, oh, well, if it needs to be addressed, then it's in mentoring or in supervision that could be brought up. Is there another way that you were thinking about addressing that?
I think that it is very important then to put it in the coaching relationship. The way you feel, and maybe use it like, well, I don't feel really well because my language is not as good as yours. So I feel like a bit of an imbalance. What about you and the subject or the objective you have today? Is there something that could relate to what we are experiencing in our relation? And maybe the person will say, well, I feel the same like with my boss, or whenever I have to speak up, even in my language, I feel not that confident. So the client will feel at ease with the coach. with the empathy of the coach, because the coach is showing that they are experiencing what the client experiences in other situations. And
Wow.
it's not by
Okay.
chance. It's
Mm-hmm.
certainly not as by chance that this client has chosen you or not chosen you, but is there with you. Well, there is really something to learn about what is happening between the coach and the client. And the language difference is there not by chance.
Mm.
Something to learn. Don't know if I had been clear.
Very, very clear. And I think that's really interesting to hear how within a session, you're imagining if these thoughts were to come in, how you could use that as something to help the client to move forward, to help the whole relationship to open up into that space of not only vulnerability, but also of growth, of accepting what is, of having that feeling, those thoughts, and not just saying, I'll deal with them later or I'll deal with
Hmm.
them in another space, but you're going to use that for the session.
Maybe I can give an example.
Sure.
I remember coaching an Italian manager. I'm not usually work with clients in company. Well, it depends, but I was not used to his vocabulary about charts, about anything with his management. And he was speaking very rapidly. I understood him, but I said a bit lost. And I was not feeling really well because I wasn't feeling as an expert of his field and not of the language. And all of a sudden I said, well, can we pause? Can we stop? Can you? I'm feeling that you have such a rhythm. And I spoke about the rhythm and that I needed to have things said more slowly. And then for the first time, he realized that he was hurrying all the time. I was the first person asking him to pause, to make things more slowly. And that was a revelation for him. It
Wow.
changes everything. It changed everything in the way he was dealing with his team,
Mm-hmm.
because he started to take time for himself, to pause and to bring breathing. And just because Iron said, well, I need that. I'm sorry, I cannot keep up with your rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
If I had been a native, I would have gone with that. But then
Right.
I said, I'm sorry. And I was feeling bad. I said, well, it is because I don't know the language as good as I should. But
Right.
no, it was what he needed. You see?
Wow. Oh, yeah. It sounds like a form of synchronicity. It connects back with what you were saying earlier with the coachee chose this person or the connection happened with the coach and coachee for a reason, and it just happened naturally there. But I find that
Mhm.
is really inspiring and intriguing to see how, in your mind in the beginning, it was something for you. It was an issue that you had that you needed to bring in that actually could become something helpful for him.
Mm.
Turn it around. Mm. Hey, beautiful. Thank you. Do you let yourself make mistakes in a foreign language?
Of course, it's not that I let myself. It's I cannot do well. Otherwise, I do mistakes. Well,
Mm.
maybe you hear the dramatic. Of course, of course.
That's an interesting question. Yes, do I hear them? We haven't spoken about that much or at all in the session. We did a little bit before but we were preparing for the session. Yes, I can hear some mistakes here. And the point here in our session is more fluency. It's really what's important is what we're saying, what you're saying. It's incredible. I'm so sure, I'm so positive that hearing your experiences can be super inspiring for other coaches or other professionals in the field of accompaniment. And in my opinion, the little mistakes that you're possibly making or that I'm even making, I'm sure that I'm making some mistakes too. It happens. They're not stopping me from understanding you
Mm.
in any case. And I'm hoping that the listeners will not have too much difficulty either. And that's why we put the captions or subtitles in so that people can read along to improve. And that's why we're trying, both of us today, to be as clear as we can, right? We're trying not to speak too fast, That being said, maybe I should slow down. I tend to speak too fast when I get excited, when I'm happy. That's naturally Stacy, and it's a challenge for me. So whether it be in French or in English, it's a challenge. And that ties back to what you were saying. When I was learning French and I had not quite mastered the language yet, I had to slow down because with my accent, people didn't understand me. And so I could see it in their faces. I was speaking too fast. So that was a good thing for me and for everybody to slow down. I realized, okay. And it brought my energy down too, right? Because, okay, I'm happy. Okay, I'm energetic. But to have such a high energy level is not always great. So that really helped me a lot. And now that I speak French too well, I don't need to make that effort anymore so much so that people can understand. So that does tie back to what you were saying. So I think I need to work on another language because
already hooked.
Thank you. Thank you for that motivation. It is just going back into that space of learning another language. It pushes you into so much learning, so much possibility. Not only just understanding the language, but as you had said, it's about culture. It's about adapting to other people. It just pushes you into needing to slow down, to be more clear, to be more attentive to the other person. So,
And making mistakes is not the point. It's not important at all. For French people, it's very important because it's the way we are taught languages. Like you get points, the teacher takes you points if you make mistakes, which is it's terrible because you have to make mistakes. It's like when you play, when you learn something, you make mistakes. It's a natural process. And it's not what you will hear. It's not that is important. I think it is nice for us coaches because, again, it makes you in an humble situation. You learn that, where you're making mistakes all the time. Most of the time you don't know. You're not that accurate, and that's fine. And most of the time it helps the clients breathe. Well, okay, I can make mistakes too. That's not the point because everybody is trying to perform at their best. Most of the time, that's not the point. Most of the time, we as coaches, we have to help people coming down from that rhythm, from that flow, and just trying more to embrace who they are and where they are at this particular moment. So it helps showing them that you're not perfect. It's obvious.
Yeah, it helps to lower that bar sometimes, or very often the expectation levels are way too high. And so that brings some context in so that it happens more naturally. In a previous conversation, you told me that language is music. How does your passion for music intersect with your sensitivity to the musicality of language?
I think it's very similar because language is music. Music is a language with its own writing, for example. Music is about sounds in different frequencies, silence, and rhythm. I think it's the same in the language. We all have a note, a fundamental note in the way we speak. We modulate our voice. British people modulate more maybe than French. We pause. And it's the way we put accents on words, on sentences. It makes it comprehensive. We can understand a sentence because not only of the words, because of the way you sing the sentence. If you don't put the accent on the right place, it will be different. It won't be that easy to understand. So you see what I mean? Language is music.
So each language would be a different style of music, could you say?
Yes, for me, it has really the same feeling as when hearing music. When I come to a foreign country, I don't know if you send that. Well, I have a very kinesthetical way of listening. Though I don't only listen with my ears, but with my whole body, with my bones. So I really feel the frequencies. You really have the impression you're coming into a concert, or I don't know if you feel that. If you have another language all around you, all of a sudden, you feel like, and even more when you don't understand the language, you hear the music of the language. It's like something that very sweet you hear, or might be a bit more aggressive, but it's like a music. You will feel something. And it's, I love that. It's really a sensation that I love, like listening to the music of the language.
Yes, I have felt that before, and it was particularly remarkable when I arrived in France. So I was 19 and I didn't understand any French. So all I was listening to was, like you said, the music of the voices, the intonation, the expressions, everything was exacerbated. And the feelings were. And I have this image of a man who was very angry, and that really marked me. It was almost traumatic, this one man and one experience that I had where I saw him almost like spitting, frothing at the mouth, and everything, even my visual was accentuated. It was incredible, and I realized that the less I understood the words, the more I was sensitive to everything else. And yes, as you said, when you change spaces, I hop in the airplane and I come back home and I start hearing this, wow, all different, right? There are so many in the airplane. You're going to start hearing people from different countries, and then you arrive in the new country, and then it's a bit more homogenous, maybe a bit more uniform, more people with similar accents. But so yes, it just changes the energy, the space changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a question of energy. And sometimes when you go back to your own country after years, maybe, or weeks, you first, when you step out of the plane, you first hear the music, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, but I understand everything.
Yes.
I don't know if you experienced that. So it's also a very nice thing to listening to your own language music. Usually we don't.
That's right. And I have that same feeling. It happens in the first instant, the first few moments, and then sometimes we will go back into autopilot somehow, and we lose that. So I feel that we need to put ourselves back into those spaces regularly, into these changes, these shifts, and it awakens our senses again.
Yes.
Well, I would like to thank you so much for all of what you have shared so far. It's incredibly helpful. It's inspiring to me, and I'm so sure that so many people will be inspired. And I also believe that you sharing this different perspective, and such a positive perspective on how speaking a foreign language in a coaching session can actually benefit both partners. I think that is incredibly valuable.
I'm happy if it does inspire people.
Thanks so much. In the next episode, we will dive into the subject of overcoming fears and limiting beliefs in coaching in a foreign language. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one. Coaching in a foreign language isn't just about words. It's about presence, adaptability, and connection. Through our conversation with Sylvie, we have seen how language can shape identity, influence the coaching dynamic, and even create new opportunities for deeper listening and understanding. I invite you to reflect on your own experiences. How does language influence the way you show up in different spaces? And if you're a coach, what would change when you coach someone in a language that isn't your first or theirs? And of course, if this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me through Spotify, LinkedIn, Instagram, or my website to share your reflections. If you know someone who might find this valuable, possibly another coach who might be on a similar journey, please share this with them. You can also follow Language Explorers for more discussions at the intersection of language, identity, personal and professional growth. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep opening new doors. À bientôt. See you soon.